The late afternoon sun bled orange across the cracked asphalt of Mason's auto, a ramshackle garage perched on the edge of Willow Creek, a sleepy American town where pickup trucks outnumber dreams. Eli Harper, all lean muscle and grease-streaked flannel, was elbow-deep in the guts of a rusted Ford, his brow furrowed in a scowl that seemed etched there permanently. At 32, he wore his solitude like a second skin, his hazel eyes sharp but guarded, as if expecting the world to swing first. The radio crackled with a country tune, its twang barely audible over the clatter of wrenches and the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. Sweat beaded on his forehead, tracing paths through the grime, and his fingers moved with a rhythm born of years. Years of fixing cars, of keeping this place alive after his father walked out and his mother faded into memory. Then came a sound that snapped his head up, a low, expensive purr like a panther prowling into a barnyard. A black Bentley Continental rolled into the lot, its polished curves absurd against the gravel and peeling paint of Mason's. Eli wiped his hands on a rag, his pulse ticking up as he squinted against the glare. Who drives a car like that here? The driver's door opened, and out stepped a woman who looked like she'd walked off a magazine cover. Claire Voss, mid-30s, wore a tailored blazer and heels that clicked with authority, her auburn hair swept back in a way that screamed control. But her face, pale, with shadows under her green eyes, told a different story. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and her fingers clutched a leather purse as if it were a lifeline. She scanned the lot, her gaze landing on Eli like a spotlight, and he felt the weight of it, a mix of challenge and desperation. "You the mechanic?" Her voice was crisp, but there was a tremor in it, like a wire stretched too tight. Eli nodded, tossing the rag onto a workbench with a casual flick. "That's me. What's wrong with your beast?" He jerked his chin at the Bentley, keeping his tone light, though curiosity gnawed at him. "Nobody local owns a car worth more than my rent for a decade." "It's making a noise," Claire said, crossing her arms over her chest. "A grinding like it's choking. Started an hour ago on the highway." She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder at the empty road, her eyes darting as if expecting shadows to move. "I need it fixed. Fast." Eli's eyes narrowed, catching the edge in her voice. She's running from something. He'd seen that look before, on his mother's face, years ago, when she'd packed a bag and left his father's temper behind. The memory stung, a flicker of a woman with flour-dusted hands and tired eyes, whispering about starting over. He shook it off, focusing on Claire. "All right, let's take a look." He circled the Bentley, popping the hood with a practiced ease that came from a lifetime in this garage. The engine gleamed, a maze of pristine components that made his fingers itch to explore. He leaned in, inhaling the sharp scent of oil and metal, the heat rising to meet his face, and listened as Claire hovered nearby, her heels shifting gravel with a nervous rhythm. "Sounds like a timing issue," he said, straightening with a grunt. "Could be a belt or a pulley. I'll need to dig deeper." He caught her frown, the way her fingers tightened on her purse, knuckles whitening. "Don't worry, I'm good at this. Been fixing cars since I was 12. Claire's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but a crack in her armor. "You don't look like you've been doing anything since you were 12. He grinned, a flash of charm breaking through his usual gruffness. "Flattery won't lower the bill, but I'll take it." Her eyes softened, just for a moment, a glint of warmth before the tension snapped back like a rubber band. She stepped closer, her perfume, a hint of jasmine, clashing with the garage's earthy stench. As Eli worked, the town's pulse thrummed around them. Willow Creek was the kind of place where everyone knew your business. Main Street's diner buzzed with gossip over coffee, and the annual harvest fair, with its pie contests and hayrides, was the heartbeat of the community. Today, kids shouted from a nearby field, practicing for the fair's tractor pull, their laughter weaving through the air like a thread of normalcy. Eli's thoughts drifted to the fair, to the booth his mother used to run, selling jams with handwritten labels. Her voice warm as she said, "Family means showing up." He pushed the thought away, a pang of guilt twisting in his gut. Family was a sore spot, one he'd buried under years of isolation, of choosing wrenches over relationships. Under the hood, Eli's hands moved with surgical precision, but his mind churned. Claire's unease was contagious, seeping into his bones. Why is she so jumpy? He spotted a loose timing belt, its edges frayed, and adjusted it with a steady hand. But something else caught his eye, a small metallic component tucked near the fuel line, out of place, almost hidden beneath a tangle of wires. His gut twisted. That's not standard. He didn't touch it, not yet, but filed it away, a puzzle piece that didn't fit the Bentley's pristine design. What is it? Found the noise, he called, keeping his voice steady as he wiped sweat from his brow. Belt's slipping. I can fix it, but it'll take a couple hours. Claire's jaw tightened, her expression hardening into a mask. I don't have a couple hours. Eli raised an eyebrow, leaning against the fender. You got somewhere to be? She didn't answer, just paced, her heels carving tiny divots in the gravel, each step a staccato beat of impatience. Eli's pride flared, a hot coal in his chest. I'm not some hack. He wanted to prove himself, to show this city woman that Willow Creek's best could outshine any big-shot mechanic. I'll make it quick, he said, diving back into the engine with renewed focus. His fingers danced over the parts, tightening, adjusting, his mind racing to impress. But pride made him sloppy. He tightened the belt, aligned the pulleys, and fired up the engine. It purred, smooth, perfect, a symphony of metal and fuel. Too perfect. He should have double-checked that odd component, should have let curiosity override his ego, but Claire's urgency and his need to shine pushed him to call it done. Good as new, he said, slamming the hood with a satisfying thud. Claire exhaled, relief flickering across her face like a candle in a draft. Thank you. What's the damage? He quoted a fair price, scratching the back of his neck, and she handed over her card with a nod. As she turned to leave, a new sound cut through the air, tires crunching gravel, fast and deliberate. A silver SUV screeched into the lot, its tinted windows hiding the driver. Claire froze, her face draining of color, her purse slipping slightly in her grip. Eli's heart kicked up, a drumbeat in his ears. Trouble. The SUV's door opened, and a man stepped out, tall, broad, in a suit that screamed money and power. His face was hard, chiseled, his eyes locked on Claire like a hunter sighting prey. Claire, he said, voice low, controlled, each syllable dripping with intent. We need to talk. Eli's fists clenched at his sides, the rag dangling forgotten. Who's this guy? Claire's fear was palpable, her breath shallow, her green eyes wide with a terror she couldn't hide. He stepped forward, instincts overriding caution, his voice sharp. She's busy. The man's gaze flicked to Eli, dismissive, a sneer curling his lip. Stay out of this, grease monkey. Eli's temper flared, a wildfire under his skin, but Claire's hand grazed his arm, a silent plea that stopped him cold. Her touch was warm, trembling. It's fine, she whispered, though her eyes screamed otherwise. She turned to the man, her voice steadying. Victor not here. Victor. The name landed like a stone in Eli's gut. His mind raced, piecing together fragments. Ex? Stalker? He didn't know, but he knew trouble when he saw it, felt it in the way the air thickened. His mistake hit him hard. He'd rushed the repair, ignored that strange part. What if it's tied to this guy? His pride had blinded him. And now Claire was cornered, her shoulders hunched as if bracing for a blow. Before Eli could act, Victor stepped closer, his presence suffocating, his cologne overpowering the garage's scent. You can't run forever, he said to Claire, his tone laced with menace, a promise wrapped in silk. She stood her ground, but her hands trembled, her fingers whitening on her purse. Eli's thoughts spun, a whirlwind of regret. I messed up. Should have checked that part. His flaw, his need to prove himself, had put her in danger, and the weight of it pressed on his chest. Then, a sudden movement. Claire's purse slipped from her shoulder, hitting the ground with a soft thud. Papers spilled across the gravel, blueprints labeled Affordable Auto Project in neat script. Eli's eyes widened, his breath catching. She's planning something big. Before he could process, Victor lunged for the papers, his hand outstretched, but Claire snatched them back, her defiance flaring like a spark in dry grass. "Back off," she snapped, her voice steel, her chin lifting. Victor smirked, unfazed, and climbed into his SUV. "This isn't over," he said, peeling out with a spray of gravel that stung Eli's legs. Claire sagged, clutching the blueprints to her chest, her face a map of exhaustion and fear. Eli's chest tightened, a knot of worry and guilt. What's she hiding? He wanted to ask, to demand answers, but her walls were up, her eyes distant, staring at the road where Victor had vanished. "I need to go," she said, her voice hollow, a shell of its earlier strength. She slid into the Bentley, her movements jerky but paused, meeting his gaze. Her eyes softened, a flicker of gratitude breaking through. "You're good at what you do, Eli. Don't forget that." The engine roared, and she was gone, leaving dust and questions swirling in her wake. Eli stood in the empty lot, the strange car part burning in his mind, a mystery he couldn't shake. What was that thing? His mistake gnawed at him, a failure he couldn't deny, though he wanted to. The Harvest Fair's distant cheers mocked him, a reminder of Willow Creek's heart, community, resilience, the values his mother had instilled. He'd grown up here, learned to fix cars in this very garage, but he'd push people away, let pride build walls around his heart. Not this time. He grabbed his keys, resolve hardening like steel in his grip. Claire was in trouble, and he'd screwed up once. He wouldn't again. But as he locked the garage, a glint caught his eye, a tiny tracker taped under his workbench, its red light blinking like a heartbeat. His blood ran cold, his breath hitching. Someone's watching. The fair's lights glowed on the horizon, a beacon of normalcy, but danger was closer, lurking in the shadows. What have I stepped into? The tracker's red light pulsed under Eli's workbench like a tiny, accusing eye, its presence a cold weight in the garage's dimness. His breath caught, fingers hovering over the device as the Bentley's roar still echoed in his mind. Someone's watching Claire, or me. He snatched it free, crushing it under his boot, the crunch a small victory against the unease coiling in his gut. Outside, the Harvest Fair's lights flickered in the distance, a beacon of normalcy he couldn't reach. Claire's words, "You're good at what you do," rang in his ears, but the blueprints and that strange car part haunted him. He had to find her, fix his mistake. Grabbing his keys, he jumped into his beat-up truck, the engine sputtering to life as he peeled out toward the highway. The road stretched dark and lonely, flanked by cornfields swaying under a moonlit sky, their rustling a whisper of secrets. Eli's hands gripped the wheel, his mind racing. I rushed at repair. Ignore that part. What if it's why Victor showed up? His pride stung, a bruise he refused to acknowledge, though it fueled his determination. He'd grown up in Willow Creek, learned to fend for himself after his father's abandonment, and that independence had hardened into arrogance. I don't need help, he told himself, even as the tracker's memory mocked him. The radio crackled, filling the cab with a lonesome ballad, its lyrics about lost love mirroring his isolation. An hour later, the truck's headlights caught a glint off the highway's shoulder. A Bentley, hood up, steam hissing from the engine. Eli's heart lurched. He pulled over, gravel crunching under his tires, and jumped out. Claire stood beside the car, her blazer smudged with grease, her face a mask of frustration. "It died again," she said, voice tight. "I thought you fixed it." Eli winced, the accusation slicing deeper than he'd admit. "I did," he said, defensive. "Let me check." He popped the hood, the heat hitting him like a slap. The timing belt was intact, but that odd component, now dangling loose, had a cracked housing, leaking fluid. My fault. He'd overlooked it, too eager to impress. "This part's sabotaged," he muttered, his stomach twisting. Claire's eyes widened, her hands clenching. Sabotaged? How? Before he could answer, headlights flared behind them. A silver SUV roared up, tires screeching. Victor emerged, his suit impeccable, his face a storm of anger. "Claire, enough games," he barked, advancing. "That car's mine legally. You're coming with me." Eli stepped between them, his pulse hammering. "She's not going anywhere." Victor's laugh was cold, cutting. "You? A nobody mechanic? Step aside." But Eli held his ground, his fists balled, his mind screaming. I can't let him take her. Then the twist. Claire grabbed Eli's arm, her grip desperate. He's my ex, she whispered, her voice breaking. He controls my company. Force me out. I took the car. The blueprints, it's all I have left. Her eyes glistened, tears she wouldn't let fall. Eli's breath hitched. She's fighting for her life, not just a car. The blueprints weren't a project. They were her escape, her defiance. And he'd almost cost her that. Victor lunged, grabbing Claire's wrist. She yelped, twisting free, but stumbled, paper scattering. Eli reacted, shoving Victor back, his shoulder aching from the impact. Get out, he shouted. Victor smirked, pulling a phone from his pocket. I've got eyes everywhere, he said, dialing. You'll regret this. He retreated to his SUV, tires spitting gravel as he sped off. Claire sank to her knees, gathering the blueprints, her hands shaking. Eli crouched beside her, his anger fading into guilt. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, soft now. She looked up, her face raw. I didn't trust anyone, not after he turned my own board against me. Her voice cracked, revealing a woman stripped of power, vulnerable yet fierce. Eli's chest tightened. I failed her. Again. They moved to a nearby abandoned barn, its weathered planks creaking in the wind, a relic of Willow Creek's farming past. Inside, the air smelled of hay and rust, moonlight streaming through gaps. Claire spread the blueprints on a crate, her fingers tracing lines. This was my dream, she said. Affordable repairs for small towns, using my company's tech. Victor wants to bury it, keep his luxury empire. Her eyes met his, pleading, I need a partner, someone who knows cars. Eli hesitated, his pride bristling. I don't need this mess. But her story, her fight, mirrored his own, the way he'd clung to Masons after his father left. He thought of the fair, of community, of his mother's jams. Family means showing up. I'll help, he said, the words heavy but true. But we need a plan. That night, they strategized by lantern light, the barn shadows dancing. Claire's voice steadied, her mind sharp despite exhaustion. Victor's tracking us. That part in the engine, it's a sensor he planted. Eli's gut sank. My mistake let him find her. He deflected, forcing a grin. Guess I'm rustier than I thought. She didn't laugh, just studied him, her gaze piercing. You're better than you know, she said, and the compliment stung, a mirror to his denial. The next day, they returned to Willow Creek, setting up in the garage. Eli mentored a local teen, Jake, teaching him engine basics, a distraction from his guilt. Jake's wide eyes and eager hands reminded Eli of himself at that age, hungry to prove something. Maybe I can fix this, he thought, though doubt lingered. Claire called contacts, securing parts, her resilience shining. But tension built. Victor's threat loomed, and Eli's oversight gnawed at him. Then another twist. A delivery truck arrived, but the parts were wrong, cheap knockoffs. Claire's face fell. He's sabotaging us already. Eli's fists clenched, his mistake amplifying the stakes. I should have seen this coming. He denied it, blaming the supplier, but Claire's look, disappointment mixed with hope, forced him to face it. We'll figure out, he said, his voice steadier, a first step toward correction. That evening, the garage buzzed with fair preparations. Neighbors dropping off pies, kids laughing. Eli watched, a pang of belonging he'd avoided. Claire joined him, her smile tentative. This place, it's what I want to save, she said. He nodded, his resolve hardening. But as they worked, a shadow moved outside, a figure watching, vanishing into the night. The day ended with a bang. An explosion rocked the garage, a small fire from a tampered fuel can. Eli pulled Claire clear, her face streaked with soot, his heart pounding. Victor's not stopping, she whispered, clinging to him. The community rallied, dousing the flames, their voices a chorus of support. Eli's eyes met Claire's, a bond forming amid the chaos. I'll protect her, no matter the cost. But the figure's escape left a question. Who's pulling the strings? The fire's embers glowed, a promise of danger to come. The embers of the garage fire still smoldered, casting a faint orange glow across Willow Creek as Eli pulled Claire to safety, her face streaked with soot, her breath ragged. The community surged forward, buckets of water and blankets in hand, their voices a steady hum of support that drowned out the crackling flames. Eli's arms tightened around her, his heart pounding against his ribs. I almost lost her. The shadowy figure's escape flashed in his mind, a question mark he couldn't shake. Claire clung to him, her green eyes wide with fear and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. The night air cooled their skin, but the danger lingered, a shadow thicker than the smoke. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. The night air cooled their skin, but the danger lingered, a shadow thicker than the smoke. They retreated to the Harvest Fairgrounds, the third distinct haven in this chaotic journey, with a scent of apple pie and fresh hay mingled with the hum of generators. Tents glowed with lantern light, families laughing as they set up for the tractor pull. Eli guided Claire to a quiet corner, a makeshift table under an oak tree, its branches heavy with history. She spread the blueprints again, her fingers tracing the lines with renewed determination. "Victor won't stop until he destroys this," she said, her voice steadying. "That fire, it was him." Eli nodded, his jaw tight. "My mistake gave him the chance." He denied it, deflected blame, but the sabotage parts, the tracker, the fire, they all traced back to his rushed repair. His pride had been a shield, but it had cracked, revealing a man who cared more than he'd admitted. "We'll finish this," he said, his voice firm. "Together." Claire's eyes met his, a spark of trust igniting, and for a moment, the chaos faded. The culmination came swiftly, around the 4,000-word mark, as dawn broke over the fairgrounds. Victor arrived, his SUV cutting through the morning mist, his face a mask of fury. "You think you can outrun me, Claire?" he shouted, stepping out with two men, their postures threatening. The crowd stilled, eyes wide. Eli's stomach dropped. "He's brought backup." Claire stepped forward, her chin lifted. "I'm done running," she said, her voice carrying across the field. "This is my future, ours." Victor laughed, a harsh sound. "That car's mine. And those blueprints? Stolen." He signaled his men, who moved toward the Bentley, parked nearby. Eli's mind raced. The sabotage part, it's still in there. He remembered its cracked housing, the fluid leak, and a plan formed. "Wait," he called, stepping between them. "Let me show you something." He popped the hood, his hand steady despite the sweat beading on his neck. The crowd gathered, murmuring. Eli pointed to the component, its damage stark under the morning light. "This isn't factory," he said, his voice clear. "It's a tracking device, sabotaged to fail. You planted it, Victor, to control her." Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Victor's smirk faltered, his eyes narrowing. "Prove it." Eli worked quickly, bypassing the damaged sensor with a spare wire from his pocket, his fingers trembling but sure. The engine sputtered, then roared to life, a testament to his skill. The crowd cheered, but Victor lunged, grabbing Claire's arm. "You're coming with me," he snarled. Eli reacted, shoving him back, his shoulder slamming into Victor's chest. The men advanced, but the community intervened. Jake, the teen Eli had mentored, rallied others, their voices a wall of defiance. A twist deepened the moment. As Victor stumbled, a phone fell from his pocket, its screen flashing a live feed of the garage, the barn, the fairgrounds. "He's been watching us all along." Claire gasped, her face paling. Eli's blood ran cold. The tracker wasn't the only one. Victor's vulnerability showed. Fear, not just greed, drove him, the pressure of a crumbling empire. "You can't prove anything," Victor spat, but his confidence wavered. Eli seized the chance. "Call the sheriff," he told Jake, who nodded, sprinting off. He turned to Claire, his voice low. "Trust me." She nodded, tears brimming, and together they faced Victor. The struggle was imperfect. Eli took a blow to the jaw, his vision blurring, but he held firm, pinning Victor until help arrived. The sheriff's lights flashed, and Victor's men backed off, their boss cursing as he was led away. The resolution unfolded under the oak tree, the fair resuming around them. Claire's company was safe, her project validated by the community's support. Locals signed up for the affordable repair service, their cheers a balm. Eli's face throbbed, but pride swelled in his chest, tempered by humility. I almost lost everything because of my pride. He acknowledged it fully now, his internal monologue a quiet vow. I'll do better. A romantic thread wove through the chaos. Claire touched his bruised jaw, her fingers gentle. You saved me, she said, her voice soft. Eli's heart stuttered, but mistrust lingered, her wealth his roots. I'm no hero, he murmured, dodging her gaze. She smiled, a flicker of forgiveness. You are to me. External pressure tested them. Victor's trial loomed, and financial strain from the fire threatened the garage. Yet, they leaned into it, planning together a second chance born of struggle. The finale was hopeful, yet grounded. The tractor pull began, engines roaring, and Eli and Claire stood side by side, her hand in his. The community surrounded them, a tapestry of resilience. Mrs. Hatcher offering pie, Jake beaming with pride. But subtle hints remained. A letter from Victor's lawyer, a bill for repairs. Healing would take time, and money was tight. Eli's eyes met Claire's, a silent promise. We'll build this together. As the crowd cheered, Eli turned to the fair's glow. Subscribe to the channel to see more soul-stirring stories, he imagined saying, a grin tugging at his lips. The journey wasn't over, but it was theirs,